And we're live. Hi, I'm Joshua Powell on Call to Acting, the live show. And today on the call, I have writer, director, actor, producer, and many other hats, my friend Miles Doleac. Miles, here we go on screen. There you are. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Josh. Glad to be here.
So Miles and I were just talking a little before the show, and he was telling me about Camelot, the musical that he's in right now in Natchez, Mississippi. Is that correct, Miles?
That is correct. Up here doing Camelot at the Natchez Music Festival. My second year at the Natchez Music Festival. Great arts community up here. Very, very supportive of what we do as actors and musicians. So it's great to come back and be a part of this festival again.
If the people watching right now want to see the musical, when are the showings over this next week?
Camelot is performing this Saturday night at the Mary Martin Performing Arts Center here in Natchez. 7 o'clock curtain. It's general admission, so come early to get your best seat possible. But it's a great group of folks, pro actors from all around the country, coming together to do this show and a number of other shows as part of the Natchez Music Festival, which has a little bit of everything, really, from rock and roll to soul to blues to opera.
Wow.
Really great festival up here, run by Dr. Jay Dean from University of Southern Miss and Mary Leslie and others. And just a terrific arts community up here in what I call the Little Easy. Reminds me a little bit of New Orleans.
Yeah, I can see that.
Has
right
that Rivertown sensibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was asked to come back and be a part of this festival for the second year in a row, I was thrilled to be back here.
Awesome. So you juggle a lot of things. You're a professor at USM, and you are an actor in TV shows like Containment or Shots Fired. You're in feature films. You just acted in It's Time, the Chucky Mullins story, which will be probably coming out next year. You have been in, tons of different projects, and you also write, direct, produce your own projects, most recently the movie Demons, and yet you still have time to get on stage. And I know that's a problem for a lot of actors. How do you balance all that?
It's a tricky dance, but it really is for me about the things I'm most passionate about, and it's about making time for the things that I'm most passionate about and time management, I think that stage acting, being out there on the tightrope in front of a live audience, it's the purest form of what we do as actors. And it's something that I would never want to leave behind. I would always want to have that experience and to continue to do the live theater. And I'm just incredibly fortunate to have an organization like Hattiesburg Civic Light Opera in Hattiesburg at which to perform and to direct shows. And then places like Natchez Music Festival, where I can come up and do gigs, and cohorts in the artistic community like Jay Dean and like Rob Mulholland and others. My incredible wife, Lindsay Ann Williams, who's the current president of Hattiesburg Civic Light Opera, that afford me the opportunity to still get on stage and do this thing that I love. The thing that really made me want to be an actor in the first place. That was performing in front of a live audience. But yeah, still have the old day job at the University of Southern Miss, which is, if you've got to have a day job, it's the greatest day job in the world. It's doing something I'm incredibly passionate about. And I have a department there in the Department of Foreign Languages and Literatures that's incredibly supportive of my creative work, so that when I have to go away and do a show, I recently did an episode of Halt and Catch Fire in Atlanta. They're always
I'm sorry, I said Shots Fired, and I should have said Halt and Catch Fire.
Yeah, Halt and Catch Fire, yeah. With a great group of folks, and they're always accommodating and willing to make it work. So very, very grateful for the support of the university in what I do.
Along those same lines, when you say people are accommodating, like plays have a lot of rehearsals and stuff like that. Is it really that you said time management, so is it truly just fitting it in, or is it that they trust you as an actor with your abilities from screen to maybe hit a few key rehearsals and then hit the dress rehearsal or the week before? How does that work? If you give us a little more detail.
Well, in the case of Camelot here in Natchez, I did come in a little late to the game. I came to a couple of early rehearsals, but I was finishing up the semester at USM. I was doing Camelot in Hattiesburg. I had a couple of other irons in the fire, finishing Demons in New Orleans, and then had to be in Atlanta for Halt and Catch Fire. But in this case, it was sort of ideal. I knew the show, right. Different cast, different time period. Even in Hattiesburg, we did Camelot in a more modern setting, kind of a nebulous modern setting, and here in Natchez, we're doing a true kind of medieval version of the show.
Oh, wow.
So there were some changes, but I knew the role already, so I was able to come in a little later to the game and kind of get plugged right in. But in general, yeah, I have a lot of experience on stage, and I like to consider myself a pretty quick study. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think that in the theater in particular, you have to develop a chemistry with your fellow castmates, and that requires time, and that requires preparation, and that requires kind of hanging with them and getting to know them and getting to know how your character relates to their character. So I try to be a part of as many rehearsals as I humanly can be. And in fact, I generally find that I'm there as much as anybody else.
Wow.
They have their things that they have going on, and I have my things, and they're often different things. But at the end of the day, I feel like if you're going to commit to something, you got to give it 100%. And that's what I do, whether it's in the theater or on television or in a film, and regardless of what the paycheck is or whether there's any paycheck at all. I think if you agree to do something, you got to give it your all.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's an awesome statement about balancing things and yet still finding a way to do your best at whatever you do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk some about your career as an actor. So you spent some time in Los Angeles. Is that correct?
I did. I lived in Los Angeles for about 4 years. And it was an enlightening period in my life. I mostly worked in food service. I did a few things here and there. I did some time on Days of Our Lives, soap opera. I did a long stint as a stand-in on Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, which taught me a lot about what big budget Hollywood filmmaking was. That show was shot by Donnie Burgess, who's one of the great cinematographers, who also shot, for example, Forrest Gump. Got to hang with Claire Danes a bit, who was a lovely person, and just to sort of see the machinations of a big budget Hollywood film. Mm-hmm. I did a fair amount of theater out there. Started a theater company with a buddy of mine, Sam Midwood, and we did a production of Julius Caesar at the Lillian Theater on Beverly that I was very, very proud of. But the other thing that happened to me in Los Angeles was that I, through a fortuitous set of circumstances, met a professor of early Christianity from UCLA named Scott Barchi. Mm-hmm. Started taking a few classes with him, and finally found something outside of acting that I truly deeply cared about. And that was the study of the ancient world, and wow. And that sort of provided an avenue for me into academia. I had every intention of ultimately getting my PhD at UCLA with Dr. Barchi, but things didn't quite work out that way, and I wound up getting my PhD at Tulane with a master's in between. I got my PhD at Tulane and arrived in New Orleans just in time for Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, wow.
Obviously a time of profound upheaval in the city. And the first semester I was supposed to be there in that fall semester of 2005 after Katrina, it didn't even happen. But at the end of the day, it turned out to be this kind of brilliant moment of synchronicity because, as you know, in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, Hollywood really invested in South Louisiana.
Right.
Production started booming. And as I was getting my PhD there in New Orleans, these opportunities in acting started to present themselves again. I worked with some amazing independent filmmakers. I did some high profile shows like Treme on HBO and A&E's Breakout Kings and all these sorts of things. And I was just really inspired. And I was especially inspired by the sort of up by the bootstraps filmmakers that I worked with, like Mike Mayhall on a show called Jake's Road and Dustin Shooter on this short called Rejects. And they sort of inspired me to sort of take control of my own destiny and start making my own films. Hi, Michael Randall. And that's when I decided to write my first feature, The Historian, which was loosely based on my own experiences in academia at the time. But it was a time of incredible intellectual and creative ferment for me, and in the great city of New Orleans, which is truly my favorite city in the world. And it was that moment that really set me on the path that I'm on now.
Wow. So from what I know of your acting career, it seems like it did what a lot of ours do, which is kind of start out in one place, but that as projects led into other projects, and as you were still continuing to try to make stuff or meet these different people, it seems like it's kind of snowballed. What do you feel like were the key moments where it went from, okay, like I'm booking once a year, once every couple of months, to all of a sudden it just continues to connect part after part? Because from a distance, it always seems like you are always working on something. Now, I know people say the same thing to me.
Right.
Obviously, for us, there can be a lot of downtime between acting gigs, but within the past few years, you've had consistent work on both the TV side and in major productions. Yeah,
and some of that is my own work, my own films. Right. I mean, I've made 3 feature films and a short film in the past 4 years, so that has certainly contributed to the sense that I'm always involved in something. But I've also had the good fortune to work on some huge stuff, Mag 7 and some wonderful TV shows. Have a recurring on Containment, the Julie Plex series for CW, and that was really a great experience. That was my first major recurring role. I had done a couple 2-episode deals on American Horror Story Freak Show and on a Matt Nix show for USA called Complications. But on Containment, I really got to dig into the character in 5 or 6 episodes, and that was and feel like I was really part of the cast, which was great. But I mean, the moment for me is absolutely unquestionably was the moment I decided to start making my own films.
Wow. Okay.
And it really, I don't know if that choice per se had anything at all to do with it, but it's certainly when I started making The Historian in 2013, the work became more consistent. The opportunities started coming more rapidly. And I don't know, maybe that it was kind of, I decided, hey, whether or not I'm offered roles, I'm going to create roles for myself, and I came to care a little bit less. I don't know. In my, they always said, and I always heard when I was in LA when I was younger, casting directors can smell desperation from a mile away. And I just started approaching auditions differently. I started approaching the work differently. I just kind of said, this is what I am, this is what I do, and hope you like it. And if not, that's okay, because I'm going to make my own movies and create my own opportunities and do my own thing, and love to work for you. But if it doesn't work out, I'll be fine, And I think it was maybe that attitude, that sudden willingness to just be completely who I was and as an actor and be comfortable in my own skin, that maybe opened some doors for me. At least that's in sort of trying to analyze it, intellectualize it. I think that was the moment, and it had absolutely to do with the fact that I had decided I'm going to make my own movies. I'm going to make my own opportunities, whether or not some casting director or director gives me an opportunity or not.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that part as far as trying to make, write, and direct my own things. But what advice would you give to someone as far as striking out to make, or setting out to make that first feature film?
The advice I would give them is just make the movie. Make the movie. Whatever amount of money you have in the bank, whatever resources you have at your disposal, you can get your hands on a decent camera, whether it's a Blackmagic Pocket or a Red One or a Canon DSLR camera of some kind. Mm-hmm. These are fairly easily accessible, and they've shot some absolutely wonderful movies. Right. You don't have to shoot on an Arri Alexa. You don't have to shoot with Cook Prime lenses. You don't have to have name actors. I mean, all those things help, especially having name actors when it comes to distribution. But at the end of the day, make your movie. Make your movie. I know so many people who talk about making films, who have screenplays, short screenplays, feature-length screenplays that just sit on their desk or in the closet or on a shelf and collect dust, because they feel like I don't have enough money to make the movie. And I just feel like there's always a way. There's always a way to make the film. And in some respects, I feel like I just, with all three of these films, kind of willed them to happen. And I had the help of some great folks in the Hattiesburg area who were willing to invest in me and what I do. And fortunately had some tremendous actors who liked what they read in the script and joined the project. But there were times when it didn't look like it was going to happen on all three films. And wow. I just was bullheaded about it. I said, no, we are going to make this movie. Whether we have $200,000 or $50, we're going to find a way to make this happen. And I think that's the key. Just being relentless, not taking no for an answer, making the movie at any cost.
Do you have any specific story to give us about a situation where like it just seemed dire? I mean, it could on any production, but like where it just seemed like, okay, this wall is something I can't overcome, and yet as a production, you were able to overcome it.
I mean, it's maybe the story that, and I don't think my friend Will Forsythe would mind me saying this, but Will Forsythe had joined. He had done The Hollow with us, and then he had agreed in principle to join Demons. And about 4 days into shooting, his mother became gravely ill and was hospitalized. And we were already in production, so it wasn't a matter of, oh, this is truly dire and the movie may not happen. But he was playing a fairly significant role, and he called me one morning right after we had wrapped about 6 a.m. And I knew when you get a call from Will at that hour it was bad. And he just felt absolutely horrific. But he said, my mom's in the hospital. I can't do the movie. I need to be here with her. I completely understood. And I'm a family comes first kind of guy. And Will was supposed to be there in, 48, 72 hours. It's not long, which, trying to get any kind of name actor and to get a contract negotiated in that period of time is really, really difficult. But Will, God bless him, had this good friend, Andrew Deboff, who folks might know from the Wishmaster series or from Lost. And he said, get in touch with Andy. I'm going to call him. I'm going to grease the wheels a bit. Get in touch with Andy. He'll do you right. He'll deliver this role, which was a difficult role that involves speaking Latin and all these kinds of things. A very, very powerful, charismatic role. And sure enough, I got the script to Andy. He wound up loving it, and he was in 3 days' time or so. He was down here in Mississippi, filling Will's gigantic shoes.
Wow.
And he's tremendous in the film. So there are moments like that where you have two choices. You can panic, or you can get into solution and figure out how to make it work. With The Hollow, the last of our fundraising, and we were sort of running up to our last month or so of pre-production, and we were still short, $100,000 probably of what we needed for that film. And I was on the set of Mag 7, which was 3 days that turned into 3 weeks because of rain and other things. And I was grateful for the paycheck, but at the same time, I was wanting to get back to Hattiesburg and focus on getting this last chunk of money for our film, and made a lot of calls from the trailer there on the Mag 7 set, and we managed to sort of pull that one out of the fire and get the money we needed. We knew we wanted to do some things on that film that were going to be a great deal more expensive than on my first one, The Historian, and you know, we had a sum that we absolutely needed to meet, and you know, fortunately we did some telephone calls with some investors, and things wound up working out in our favor. But you know, I remember one night I had a pretty dire telephone conversation in a hotel room in Baton Rouge with my line producer Kevin McGrail and my fellow producer Ryan Jackson, just about how. And Kevin was like, you know, if we don't find this money, I don't know. We have to sort of reinvent the wheel here. It's not going to be good, but somehow we made it happen. And I think that in this industry, it's so easy to get to despair, you know,
right.
moments like that, and to feel like getting from here to there, wherever it is you want to be, whether it's making your own film, whether it's getting on a major television show or in a major film, or just making a career as an actor, it feels insurmountable. It feels like it's blockaded with so many hurdles and rough patches and pitfalls that you're never going to do it. But one of the things I learned in graduate school when I was getting my PhD was you just have to take one obstacle at a time. You know, it's yes, you got a 10-page paper to write today and it's due today. Well, write your 10-page paper. If you think about, you know, eating the whole elephant in one bite or climbing the whole mountain, you know, in one fell swoop, yeah, it's absolutely daunting, and your brain's going to explode and ooze out your ears. But if you just take it one obstacle at a time, one day at a time, get what you need to get done for your career, for your journey today, and then think about tomorrow. And that was really something I learned in graduate school, because if I ever thought about the language requirements and the massive tome, the 300 and some odd page book that I would have to write at the end of the day, you know, to get that degree, it would have just been, anytime it did creep into my mind, it was incredibly overwhelming. But I just thought, I'm going to just take it one day at a time. Let me do what assignments are required today, and then I'll think about tomorrow. And that really, I kind of approach life and work and creative with that kind of mentality, and it's really been a boon for me. It's really been incredibly beneficial.
Wow, that was a lot of good advice. And I want to be mindful of your time, so I want to throw one question in there if we can answer it kind of quickly. Sure. Jason Edwards asked if you had any tips on getting a named actor in your first few films.
The first thing I would say is there any possibility that you know anybody that knows that actor and that can get to that actor personally? Whether it's a colleague who's worked with the actor and has a personal contact, maybe you know somebody at the agency where that actor is, but it's always better to go to the actor first, because the fact is the agent knows that on your little independent film, their client is not going to get paid what he or she would be getting paid on a big studio film. So it's always a good idea to start there. You can always ask your casting director. It's a good idea to have a casting director. I know a lot of small films can't afford one, but you'd be surprised what you might be able to get one for if you just ask. And sometimes casting directors have relationships with actors. For example, we got Will Forsythe on The Hollow, I think, primarily because our casting director, Adrian Stern, had a pre-existing relationship with him, had cast him in 5 or 6 films. And so when Adrian calls, you know, Will listens. And I think we had a good script and he liked the role. But, you know, I got Bill Sadler on my first film because I had a connection. Bill and I had been in a film together called See Girl Run, which was at South by Southwest about 5 years ago. And the director of that film, Nate Meyer, an old buddy of mine from North Carolina School of the Arts, made an introduction, and that sort of set the wheels in motion. So the first thing to do is to find out if you know somebody who knows the actor you want. Because if you just cold call the agency or make a cold submission to the agency, most of the time you're going to get the door slammed in your face unless you got really big money to offer.
Wow. Well, Jason, I hope that was the answer you were looking for.
I mean, in case, and I know we're running short on time, but in the case of this last film, Demons, I mean, you know, there were a couple of actors that I really wanted that I had worked with before. They couldn't do it for whatever reason, but they were very quick to recommend other actors. I've told the story about Will and Andy. We got Stephen Brand on the film that way. So if you can find some kind of personal connection, we got John Schneider on the film because John and I had worked on his film festival when it came to Hattiesburg together. We sort of stayed in touch. So there was a personal connection, never spoke to an agent, anything like that. So the personal connection is the thing. And if you got it, and once you do work with an actor that you love, keep their email address, keep their phone number, not because you're going to blow them up and worry the hell out of them, but because if you got a legit project, just reach out to them directly.
Yeah. Awesome. So before we end this call and I send you on your way, I'd like to ask, is there any other thing you want to say to everybody? And then also, where can people find the films you made or get connected with you?
Well, our films are readily available on most of the major streaming sites, including Amazon and iTunes and others. You can order The Hollow on DVD or Blu-ray via Amazon. You can find it in Walmart. You can find it in Redbox kiosks. If you do see the films and you like them, I would ask, please leave us a positive review, because the haters are definitely going to leave reviews. So if you like what we're doing, please say a few nice things. It can be very brief, 1 sentence, 3 words. Great film, loved it, whatever. And I would just say that, to everybody who loves this thing called making films or making theater or making art, get out there and be doing it. Be doing it. Don't sit around and wait on somebody to lay an opportunity in your lap. Get out there and do the work. And if that's working as a crew member on a film set and watching what quote unquote name actors do, or whether that's doing a play, or whether that's writing a short film and making it with your friends on the weekends and submitting it to some film festivals, get out there and do what you love. Do what you love, and it's the old Joseph Campbell thing, follow your bliss. If your bliss is the creative life, then you got to be creating. And if you're not, you're dead.
Wow. That's a strong statement. So lastly, where can people connect with you? Which social media platform is best for people to message or to stay connected with you and what you're working on?
I'm on Twitter at Miles_Doleac, Twitter and Instagram at Miles_Doleac. They're welcome to reach out to me there. On Facebook, Miles Doleac. We have my production company, Historia Films, has a Twitter account as well, at Historia Films MS. Similarly on Facebook, Historia Films MS. So we've got a website, historiafilmsms.com, where you can check out what we're up to. You can check out all kinds of stills and trailers of our films and follow upcoming news. We'll be starting to talk about the release of Demons pretty quickly here in the next month or so, I would say. So stay tuned to all our social media and our webpage for information on when you can catch Demons. We're really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, Miles, I thank you for being on the show and for all of your stories and advice and tips, and encouraging everybody to get out there and to not wait to be picked by somebody to make their own projects and to follow their bliss and all of that. Yep, we got some comments coming in, but I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody, and thank you, Miles, again for being on the show.
Thank you, Josh. It's been a pleasure, sir. Bye.
Bye.